Welcome. Thank you very much for joining. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled that we have Anne-Sophie Dumetz with us. Hi, Anne-Sophie.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. I'm really pleased that you're with us today. Anne-Sophie, can you just introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Anne-Sophie Dumetz and I'm French, like Linda. We were speaking French before the intro. So I work with women who are change makers. My brand is called She's a Change Maker. And so really it's women who were called to do something greater with themselves in their own life. And a lot of my focus is around spreading love and changing lives. But the how we do that is by, learning to be really confident at making the sales and also being able to show up and feel totally free to be yourself, unscripted, confident, knowing, whose life you're meant to change, who you're meant to be in that life, what kind of business you're supposed to grow, and really become the change that you're hoping to see in your own world, starting in your heart with the words you use and how you show up in the life. So yeah, that's in the simplest nutshell what I'm up to.
That's amazing, amazing. So can you tell us, have you always been doing this? Have you known this for your whole entire life, that this is what you wanted to do, or how did you come into this?
Yeah, so I would say like all women who feel like they are change makers, change agents in our world. I was that little girl who wanted to grow up to change the world. And the reason at the time I didn't have that understanding is that, I was a little girl who was shy, withdrawn, and I had been bullied, and I didn't feel safe showing up and being who I thought I needed to be. So I hid a lot. And so therefore I prevented myself from saying, what do I want? And putting words to those desires and dreams. So I was really super fucking awkward. Not at all the media person that I became later. So I think I knew that I wanted to make an impact, but what I didn't realize at the time that I do now is that being the change you want to see in your world, and which meant I didn't want to change the world. I needed to change myself to build the kind of world and dream I wanted to create. So that's like the first seed. And I did later on, I had a career in marketing, in communications. I was in the media. I've hosted a TV show before. My phone's wanting to be part of the conversation. It's this cute little, I have these, as a funny insight, I have these cute little alarms on my phone because I think it's fun to remind yourself of the good you want to see in the world. So I have alarms that say my clients change the world and my work changes millions of lives. And so this was just one of those inspirational moments. So yeah, I've been in this field of telling stories and making sense of women's journeys and how to feel empowered. I really started that journey in my 20s when I'm 37 now. So when I did journalism and women's studies and wrote a lot about how you can use your own words to change your world and empower yourself. I even did a talk at a university about how Black women in hip hop use their voice to change their own circumstances in life. So I've been doing this type of work for a long time, with a detour in, working for a national museum, working in the federal government. And it was in 2012 that I had a really big burnout because I had just been giving everything away. I had in terms of my energy, I had a nice job, well-paying job, a good house. And, but I'll always remember this day when my daughter was 4 and asked me, Mommy, what can I be when I grow up? So of course I said, well, you can be anything you want. But that was for me a moment of figuring out that saying something to her and not being that as an example was not cool for me. That I just couldn't do that. So it took a while, and I did quit that job and left and built my career in coaching. I started focusing more on parents, but the truth is, I've always known I was meant to work with women in leadership role. And the really funny thing is that even though I had this detour in my path, and I'm talking about this detour because it's for your audience, it's not always obvious. It's not always straight. And sometimes fear gets in the way. Sometimes your path looks like this, right?
Yeah.
And this is actually a painting that my friend did of my energy 2 years ago. It's called You Are Momentum. And I was freaking momentum in 15 things. But the hilarious thing is that I'm trying to find something to show you. On my business card 3 years ago, before I launched anything to do with women change makers, I wrote on my business card, Anne-Sophie, motivational coach and inspirational speaker. And it said, step into your life's leading role, and something about stepping into your life's leading role and becoming the leader that you're meant to be. Like, it was for women. And so like, I had the foresight of writing that on my card, but then I was scared to become that. So this is like for the people in your audience where, depending if you're in the first year or 2 years of your journey and you've had, maybe a heavy past in some way, it's possible that you've seen and gleaned your truth and your purpose, but you haven't owned up to it yet.
And how does one own up to it? How did you own up to it? Because I think you're absolutely right. Some people say, and I know from my experience with my clients, is that people say, oh, but I just don't know what I want to do. It seems like everybody around me has it all figured out, but I just don't know. So when they say that, like, what part of them is stalking? It's fear. It's fear. Exactly. And so when I had that inspiration 3 years ago, I even wrote a really clear vision and mission statement for myself in my journal. And then I remember writing it and going, oh my God, that is so big and it's scary. And I closed my journal, put it back on the shelf, and didn't really do anything about it. I built my business around something else that felt less scary. So there is really an element of feeling unsafe pursuing what you really want and who you really are, and actually going out and creating that. Because truth is, like in our Western world, we are sold a version of success and freedom. And then we buy into it. Then you're like, oh, I'm going to go online and build my own business. So then you're sold another version of success and freedom. And so the fear comes from exactly that question that your clients are saying, where they're like, well, why don't I know what I'm doing? And why is it so easy for X, Y, and Z person? They're comparing themselves to somebody else's version of success and freedom. That's the trap. That is a big freaking trap. And I fell into it too, you do need mentors, you do need coaches, you do need role models if you're, somebody who's sensitive with a lot of ambition and goals and dreams. Like, it's really important to have that guidance, but you also have to know your own voice. Mm-hmm. So over time, this is what I've developed is basically a framework of a way of working that doesn't box people in, because there's really, for me, like, I get pissed off with blueprints and scripts, because for me, I tried them, I've learned from them, but my message overall is too big to fit into somebody else's template. It just doesn't, And so every time I tried to make it fit into like the 3 lines, I felt constricted. I felt small. I felt smaller than the message and the work is. Like, I work with women who know they're meant to change the world. They know that in their soul. They're fucking scared initially when they say it. First of all, when they start to say it to themselves, they're like, really, me? That's what I did. When I said, oh my God, this is what I wrote, closed my journal, put it on the shelf, got scared, did something else. And so the first year and a bit of my business, while I did some awesome stuff, built Game Changing Parents, which was like a really great event, and part of my brand, interviewed lots of amazing people, it wasn't what was right for me. And so you can do really great things, but if it doesn't feel right for you, then you're out of alignment. Yeah. Yeah. But do people have to go through that journey? Because if I had to, sort of describe my journey, it's been very long, and it takes me a long time to learn things. If I were to sort of compare myself to others, which is completely useless, but if I did, that's what I would say. So, but do you think, from your perspective, you had to go through that? You had to write your mission and vision in your journal, and you had to put it away. You had to let it sort of, and then come back to it. What's your thought around that?
I mean, I'm very much believe that things happen. Like, I find the meaning and the purpose to everything that is happening. So, saying everything happens for a reason, there's the other side of I'm empowered myself to create and find meaning out of the journey. So I don't know if you have to go through that. I mean, everybody is a unique individual, and everybody is different, and everybody has different lessons and things that they're here to do and implement. So, I mean, I work with women to help them grow their business and step into the level of messaging and work that they have to do in the world. But ultimately, it's a personal growth journey, and that's been my path too. So there has been twists and turns. It's been until last August when I'm going to reveal what I had. I had the best concussion ever, which I will explain in a moment. It's an article I wrote. I did. So until I had that concussion, you know, I was not quite on track. So I've had a few wake-up calls in my life. One of them was the big burnout before I quit the corporate, which helped me correct some things about how I was doing. And then this concussion happened after I was being very busy in the doing of the business, in the doing of the dream, but I was not being the person who could just easily unfold and let the dream evolve. And so the concussion was this moment where, if there are any parents in the audience, where you're going, I was not like this. I was on my phone and I'm like, okay, I got to go drop my son off. And I'm trying to go and grab stuff around the house. And there's this little door at my house that's like 5 foot tall. And I ducked, but I didn't duck hard enough. And I hit my head here. So it's been 10 months and I'm still not recovered. So like it's changed my life, like quite literally. But I say it was the best concussion ever, because stopping and being stalled, like having to stop. My body said, you have to stop now. And like literally, universe hit me on the head with this frying pan.
Literally hit you on the head. So I
literally hit a wall. And then that's the time when I realized, it made me stop and think, you know what, like I've given it my all to this part of Game Changing Parents. I still love it. I need to park this project now, really focus on who I want to work with, which is women who are change makers. And I was already doing that because it was part of Game Changing Parents, but I wanted to just really focus on that. So that happened, that hitting the wall moment. And it also showed me that until roughly last September, I was working out of fear and doubt. I was not working out of love. I have like show and tell today. I'm showing you stuff. So this, I'm going to show you. This is my friend who does these. So art trading cards. She gave me this September 22nd, 2015. That's my birthday. This was my birthday gift. And this is what's on it. It's spreading love. So this was the first sign. Her name's Kasha Rashfal, and she just channels intuitively messages from source and through art. So she gave me this like image, little girl on a giant heart spreading love. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I stuck it in my wallet, didn't make anything of it. I had no idea what was coming. And so for those of you who've seen a bit of my work, my brand since, I talk about, you know, women who are change makers whose work spreads love and changes lives. Yeah. So this was the first indication I received from the universe somehow that this was my work. My work was not about ego, it's about love. And so that happened. And then later on, this drawing, you can kind of see it. It's a bunch of hearts happened. And I started to get clear about the fact that I had to change the way I show up to my own work less from fear, actually nix fear completely, and start to work 100% completely from love. I know I'm talking and not letting you ask a single question.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And actually, this is really good because, so I think what you've done is absolutely amazing, and I completely admire what you've done in regards to be a change maker, because I think there's definitely space for it in the world. But so you say that you were working from fear and doubt. And now you choose not to. So some people might say, like, how do I do that? Like, how can I not be in anxiety and fear and shame and guilt and all that stuff and just choose, like, and be in love, right?
Yeah. And so before I fully answer that, I want to say that part of this work for me is being also redefining what love means. So when I came out to my email list, I'm parking Game Changing Parents, I'm doing She's a Change Maker. And one of the things I said in that email back in like November or something is that to me, truth is the greatest measure of love. Being able to be in that space of truth. And so when I was before working in fear and doubt, I was a non-truth. I was not truly being who I meant to be. I was not truly embodying my work and being the mother that I wanted to be. And, you know, I'm still on journey. Like, it's not like there's no magic wand moment, but starting to see and make a commitment to first of all, believe that it's possible to love yourself enough to be fierce. And so for me, like, that was a moment of truth and of love, was to say, you know, I'm not this wishy-washy, rainbows, fluffy person. Like, I swear, I show up with a lot of passion. I show up with purpose, and I'm, you know, super intuitive, and I'm a truth bomber. Like, I come with a big bullshit button, you know. My clients, like, I had a call with a new client yesterday, and I told her some things I observed, and I said, you know what they say, first, the truth will set you, Gloria Steinem says this, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. And so, yeah, I was pissed when I hit my head against the wall. Yes, I was pissed to see, like, shit, I've been building my business from a place of, I'm afraid I won't get clients. I doubt that this is going to work, rather than being a space of pure inspiration, being grounded and connected, resourced, like really connected to, you know, the greater thing that connects us all, whatever we want to call it, and just working from a place of powerful purpose. And so, like, the love has to be, I can love myself enough to hear that I need a break and I'm going to lie down and I don't care what time it is, and love myself enough to say, yeah, I need to go and show up and, you know, do whatever that I need to do. So I manage my energy way better now. But it all has to start with a decision to love.
And so the decision for you to love was just to bring awareness to who you are and what you really wanted? Is that?
Well, so the decision was really hard and fast about in May of 2016. Like, I had been dancing around it for a little while and had started to put things out into the world around saying, you know, this part of what love is and all that, and doing work that spreads love and changes lives. But to be honest, if I look back in early 2016, I was still afraid to start to lead with love. Like, because I'm not talking about romantic comedy love. It's like fierce love, tough love. You know, love yourself enough to be kick-ass. Love your clients enough, your potential clients enough, that you're going to say, I'm going to show up so they can find me and be visible online. Like, that's a version of love too. So in May 2016, I remember sitting one day, it's like 11 p.m. at night. I'm sitting at my computer. I'm about to shut down. I get this like lightning rod boom inspiration. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm deciding right from this moment, I'm going to build my life and my business 100% based on love, 0% based on fear. But that is the kicker, saying, okay, 100% love, but then by saying 0% fear. So actually, if your people, your audience, I don't say your peeps, your peeps. If you want to check out a little bit more about that, if you go to spreadlovemakesales.com/guide, I have a free guide there, and I talk a little bit more about that aspect of the decision. But so essentially, like, deciding that and naming 0% fear. What happened after that in the days following, and I'd been on this path for a little while, is that every time a fear would show up or a doubt, I could see it. I could name it. I could let it go. So this commitment to showing up with more love and more purpose, more fire, has been really something I have to recommit to multiple times a day. I have to catch myself. It's like, you have to you can't just be stuck in your bubble. You have to kind of like zoom out and be like, what am I doing? Am I still on track? And then zoom back down and keep going.
So it's constant sort of the exercise of bringing awareness constantly and recalling sort of what your purpose is meant to be, and questioning whether you're aligned to that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's noticing my thought patterns, my energy. If I'm posting or commenting, am I basing this like, where's my energy? Am I afraid? Am I pissed off? Am I angry? Or am I just actually kind, generous, caring? Am I actually serving? And it really is, like, in the industry, coaching industry, we get in here to change people's lives and serve them. So what does service mean? Offering them something that helps them. And so it's really leading from a place where your heart feels good about what you're giving people. You're not, you're not being mean, spiteful. You're not, comparing yourself because you're afraid. Like, you're loving yourself enough to show up for yourself and your clients.
And can you do that can you do that if you work in a business and you're an employee, and can you use that same technique or approach if you're not a coach, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine so. I mean, making a commitment to love yourself enough to show up in your own life and be who you're meant to be, it's a universal thing. I was thinking about this, how love is something that we're born naturally knowing, and hate and fear is something that we are nurtured to learn. So, fear, maybe there are some natural fears that your brain, like, that are the reptilian brain that we bring with us. But love is something that you just know as a newborn child. You're like, wow, you have awe and wonder. But the opposite is something that, like, hate is definitely a learned behavior. It's not something we're born with. So it's really coming back to who we are. And that's when I worked on Game Changing Parents. I used to say this, that, like, babies, they're like the purest little form of human,
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, that's definitely my experience. And even when they're still little, like, not necessarily just babies, but just little children are still, I mean, there's extraordinary.
And for people listening to this going, oh, what a hippie. I'm like, when I declared this to the world and said, I'm making this decision to build my business based 100% on love, not fear. And then the next line was like, I know I sound like a fucking hippie, but I don't care. Like, but to be honest, it's created breakthroughs for me. And then the clients who've signed up with me since, who've been implementing that, like, they've been finding their sales, their interactions, everything's become easier. By implementing some of the method around, like, spreading love and making sales, and having a really profound perspective shift on who you are and how you show up in the world.
And what I hear from you is that you've had a profound shift, because you said at the beginning that, you hit a lot, you were bullied when you were a child, you never said what you wanted, and now look at you. I mean, it's extraordinary. So I think anybody listening, no matter what situation they're in, no matter where they are in their life, there's always hope. There's always a way of sort of getting through. So, and I know one of the things that you also do is you really help people sort of get clarity on their message. And I was wondering, so if somebody's like, well, I'm not really sure what my message is, what advice would you give them?
So first, depends on where they are. So first, the message clarity, again, is one of the manifestations of loving the work that you're here to do. Like, I'm really speaking to the entrepreneurial type of people. Yeah. So if you're not fully committed to your work, if you're not fully aware as to who your ideal clients are and how you can connect with them on a really emotional, soulful level, you're going to stay confused, because you can't take a stand for the people whose life you want to change if you don't know who they are, and you can't reach them at the depth you need to reach them if you're unclear about your message. So the first thing I do is I do a message clarity assessment and ask, like, so what's going on? What are you saying? What's working? What's not working? How are you feeling about it? And just really ask a lot of questions to get, like, an assessment of, like, where are you at? Because based on that, then I can say, what's next. For some people, it might be also, actually, just had a client this morning, we were talking, and we've done a message clarity session with her, but we ended up doing it twice. And we did it twice because during the message clarity session, what I do is really get the person clear on who their ideal client is and what they need to communicate and offer in order to make things work in the relationship. But for her, where she was in her business, she'd been stuck and confused about it for so long that we needed to go through this process twice to help her get to the point of letting go of stuff that were cluttering her. She had to get to say, this is who I think I want to help, and go, like, no, that's not who I want to help. So it was almost like creating this, I call it, like, your fuck no list. Like, fuck no, I don't want to work with these people. These are really not my people. So sometimes the process is starting to work with the shadow side of you and saying, like, here's everything you don't want to say. Here's everything you don't want to do. And then that makes room for the rest. So, yeah, I mean, the first step is you can't you can't make a shift until you kind of have a sense of where you are. Right. And you have to start where you are. So the first step really would be a message clarity assessment. That's what I would want to recommend for somebody. Get a bird's eye view of where you're at. And I am, I'm happy to open up a few spots this week for your people. So your people, it sounds so casual, but for you all, fantastic, lovely audience members. So yeah, if you go to, this link will be emailed, but it's calendly.com/ASDUMETZ. And there should be a few spots there for message clarity sessions. I don't do that many, message clarity assessments. So it's just a free 20-minute assessment. And there's a few questions to make sure that this is the right time for you to do this kind of assessment. But, it's really for people who are really tired of being confused, tired of being unclear, and who've tried to put things out there. And it's kind of working-ish, but it's not really working. And so it's really for the woman who's like, fuck this, like, I got to get unconfused because it's preventing me from putting together offers, filling my practice, and having clients. Like, it really ultimately is what it leads to. And it's also a heartbreaking, confidence-dropping moment when you keep trying and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Past might been there, not there now, but I remember like really, and I'm focusing on sales right now because sales, I think for a lot of people who are unclear about their message, who they're meant to serve and how they can show up, it feels like a whole bunch of heartbreaking moments where you don't get clients initially. But it doesn't have to feel that way. It should feel like this happy, excited, like, yay, I'm so happy I get to help you. Just feel exciting. And that's when you're in that space of love, service, knowing who your people are, then you're clear, and then you can be focused in your activities. You can do more. You can do less better and serve more better, like in a way.
Yeah. But what I've heard is that it's actually applicable to anybody, because if you're really clear about where you are, which it doesn't matter if you're stuck or not, and it doesn't matter if you just have a whole big list of things that you don't like, then, I mean, you can totally use that list to say, okay, if I don't like this, what do I like? Or what, if I don't want this, what do I want? Which I think is a really brilliant and simple exercise for people.
So I keep, this is my fuck no hell yes list that I made a little while ago, where I have things on my list with hell yes, this is things that I want to keep doing, fuck no, these are things I don't want to do. I'm still doing some of the things on my fuck no list, but I'm getting to the point where I can outsource some of those things too. So so it's a process of being clear about who you're meant to be and how you want to show up.
Yeah, and choosing like love instead of fear in regards to that, and not having to sort of hide and be less than who you really are.
Because the process otherwise is, I'd love to be this kind of person, but I'm afraid I can't, so I'm just going to go do blah, 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 like something that drops your energy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be less than who I'm meant to be.
So do you have any sort of thoughts about sort of creating your own tribe? Because oftentimes what happens is that, especially when we're in a place where we're stuck, and if we've been stuck for a long time, we're often surrounded by people who are stuck, or people who are just perfectly fine that we are stuck, right? So they're not trying to sort of encourage us necessarily. They're not trying to keep us there, but they're certainly not trying to sort of help us accelerate. So what are your thoughts about sort of creating your tribe and
so define tribe for me though?
So
for you.
Seeking people who would be more like-minded, like your future self, or the way you want to feel, or the way you want to be. Yeah.
I mean, that's a question for personal or professional, like it's both, right? So
yeah,
it's both. So I would say first, like for people who are starting their entrepreneurial journey in the first year or two, there's going to be a moment of heartbreak of feeling like, some of the people who used to be my friends who really got me don't get me anymore. But there's also, as you just shift those relationships, it doesn't mean you need to end them. They're just going to be different. There's going to be room for new people who come in. I mean, again, it's a sense of knowing who you are and who you want to hang out with. And like my time's really precious and valuable. So if I'm going to choose to spend time with someone, I really want to focus spending time with people who enhance my quality of life, and whose life I can enhance too, where we can just like laugh, have fun, have a good time. You know, I like to do deep, serious work the fun way. I like to laugh a lot and make it amusing, you know, because otherwise, why bother? So, like in terms of the tribe, like I really think about your destined clients are like the people whose life you're meant to change. Usually when I meet my people, they're not quite working with that person yet, but they're close to, like maybe they're 20% off. So we just want to like remove the confusion as to who these people are, so they can show up and start to find them and be found by them as well. And then in terms of peers and mentors, I mean, it's a personal path and decision to decide how you want to create that. I mean, one of the best ways is to join group programs where you see a lot of like-minded people. So like masterminds, like this month in July, I'm doing the Spread Love, Make Sales Bootcamp. So it's a group of women who are in the same space of wanting to love themselves more, to kick more ass. And therefore they're going to make new friends, you know, they're going to change their life now by having a peer group of women who are like, oh yeah, I want this too. So like that's a good way to do it through group programs, but it really has to be an intentional decision, and you have to make space for the new people, you know. So I've developed some really amazing new friendships with some women. Like there's a close friend of mine, she's in San Francisco. I haven't met her in person, but we speak every week. You know, so she's like a really close friend, but it had to start with the desire of like, you know, I think we could get along. Let's be friends. Like really, it's like being like a 7-year-old. Hey, you want to be my friend? Right? And then making space and making time for that, and being open to the fact that things will shift and change.
What I love about what you just said is actually making time and space, but for anything that's important, whether it's creating a new relationship, whether it's getting a new job, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur, whether it's like changing the world, whatever, just make space. Because what I found is also that people, they wait. Maybe somebody will come and knock on my door someday and like they'll make it happen for me.
Yeah. Best friends don't show up on a silver platter typically. Like they'll be like the seed of a best friend that can show up, or the potential client, but then you have to nurture that and see if it's going to grow. There was something else I was going to mention along those lines. I'll see if it comes back. I don't remember. But yeah, making time, making space, knowing what matters. Oh yes, actually, this is a really practical tip. So when you start to become really purposeful and meaningful in terms of what you want in your hell yes version of life, you want to get really good at transitioning between tasks and things. Most people think about, okay, I have to go for a client call, then I have to go to do an interview, then I have to go do social media or whatever. And then they'll spend like 35 minutes transitioning between 15-minute tasks. So they have a lot of wasted time blocks. So it's a bit like a triathlon athlete. They'll practice transitions. So I think it's an invisible time chunk that usually isn't in your calendar, but practice your transitions. See if you can sequence what you're doing. So you're doing specific things, one specific thing before another. Like I know, for example, I get energized talking to people. So I'm going to do that before I'll go and do, let's say, receipts, which does not energize me, you know, so I can organize my day differently. So it really is that dancing of self-awareness, listening to what you want and your energy, and then being strategic as to how you organize yourself so that you can create more time by removing the time wasters.
Yeah, and
like a laser lesson.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I love that. And so practicing transitions is a really interesting concept, and I'm not a triathlete, but I think that's definitely there's some.
I've done one like this sprint triathlon. That's it. So yeah.
Well, that's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
So in order to be in a space of love, you have to love yourself. And what does it look like to really love yourself?
What does it look like to really love yourself? The first thing that comes to mind is to stop bullshitting yourself.
Okay, what does that look like? What is
bullshitting myself would be, you know, standing in the mirror and having low self-confidence and pointing out all the things I don't like, as opposed to being like, you know what? You're an awesome, strong, powerful woman. You do epic shit every day. keep going.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, the self-talk, which would be negative. That would be being in fear and doubt. So that would be one thing. In terms of like day to day, I mean, I usually want to have something that rejuices me up in the morning. You know, it can be anything from meditation, walk, biking, running. I live next to a big lake, so I go and dive into the lake, you know, spending time with my kids, having a crazy dance party in the kitchen, journaling. I had a really good dance party with my son in the kitchen yesterday. It was really fun. So doing things
I want to come to your kitchen.
It was time to make supper, and instead, for the Canadians here, there's a group from New Brunswick that's called Radio, and they have this song called Lève tes mains. I think that and anyway, so my son's 6 and he loves to dance. He like cranked it. The neighbors could have heard it. He was just like tearing down the block. It was awesome. But yeah, so loving myself is, you know, to have all the pieces of me feel happy and to take time off. I think taking time off as an entrepreneur can be challenging when you're starting and you're being like, especially building your own business. There's always something else to do, but it's like, remember to be yourself and remember that, you know, you're only going to get to the life you love by designing the life you love in your business. You can't, it won't fit in otherwise.
So what about the, you know, the people who really struggle with things that have happened to them in the past that they're not particularly happy or proud of? Like, what would you say to them in regards to sort of, you know, that past and sort of living a life?
Well, I would say if you're like, if this is like the rug and you're trying to sweep the past under it and pretend it's not there, don't do that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't do that, because that's avoidance, that's fear, that's doubt, that's not, you know, healing.
So what do you do with it? So what do you do with that past instead of sweeping it under the rug?
You have to bring it out of the rug, take a look at it, make sense of it, you know, put meaning into it, try to understand it. But through the understanding comes a bit of the emotional detachment. So one of the programs I have is called the Soapbox, and I'll work with someone on their story and their deeper why. So it's not just your pretty marketing story of like, I had a burnout and then I got better and now I'm doing this. You know, it's not that. It's really the deeper story. For me, it includes, I was bullied as a child, and like what I told about earlier of basically holding back. So, but in the process of unearthing your story and your deeper why, some of those pieces of the past are going to come out. And so it's about looking at them in a new light and making sense of it. So, I mean, this program I'm talking about is for a very specific purpose. It's really for somebody who's ready to go and take a stand more publicly. Yeah. And you want to make peace with the pieces of your past if you're about to be pretty visible, because people are going to ask you about it and you have to be okay to answer it. Yeah. So I would say, like, first of all, if it really feels like there's a heavy part of the past that you want to deal with, like, you can start talking to friends, but I would really recommend talking to somebody who feels like an expert in that area, whatever it is that you're dealing with. I've worked with a lot of energy workers. I really like energy work, so that's where I go. I also have some good girlfriends, you know, that are coaches or work in neurolinguistic programming, and so sometimes we just kind of coach each other that way. Yeah. But it's a matter of becoming the person who holds the pen on the story of your past. You know, or is it because it's that framework. If you don't own your story, it's going to own you. So just make this.
Yeah. And we make it all up. Like, we make all that shit up. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just our story about it. Mm-hmm. So why not just make it up?
So yeah, and I'm imagining some people are listening to this feeling super triggered, you know, because they're like, but I'm really emotional, and it's like, and it's not that easy. And yeah, it's not always going to be easy. Loving yourself is not always easy. It's not. But if you want to love your entire self and actually want to bring your entire self with you in the life moving forward, if there's pieces of you didn't like, forgive them. Yeah. Actually, Brene Brown's book, Rising Strong, is really good. It's a really, really great book to read if you are wanting to make peace with parts of you that are in the past and reframe them. There's some really great tools in there. I would strongly recommend it.
I agree. Actually, Crystal Andrews Morris Set, her the Emotional Edge book actually does a lot of work in that space as well. Which, I mean, there's so many very, very good books that people can get. And
and there's also like tapping, emotional freedom technique can be pretty powerful when you're wanting to deal with a story, but there's a lot of emotion coming up.
Yeah,
you can deactivate a bit of the emotions, start shifting things more quickly. One more book recommendation. I'm just sharing resources I like here, but Margaret Lynch has a book called Tapping into Wealth. And so for people who have a really weird money story, and it's a really practical book that has very good journaling prompts and tapping exercises to help you shift and transform your story. So that's one of the resources I've used to help me around, reframing and rewriting my own money story and making it something I love rather than something I hate,
And it's just like everything else, right? Everything is just energy. And so either, we use it or we view it as energy, or we use it and view it as a blocker or an obstacle or an evil or whatever.
Well, and the thing is, what you resist persists is what people say is very true. Personally, for me, there's nothing that drives me more crazy than, there's few things that drive me more crazy than meeting someone who's 60, 70, 80 and hasn't dealt with their past and they're still burdened by it. They're just like, just deal with it and be free from it. Like, free yourself. That's all.
Yeah. Well, so do you have any thoughts on forgiveness and how that would sort of play a part in self-love and sort of working in love?
It's part of making yourself whole. So if you don't forgive, then you're just basically blowing things out of proportion as well. So it's like seeing the facts and forgiving. So it's definitely part of it. For sure.
Amazing. So you were somebody who never used to say what you wanted. Some people might be people pleasers. I don't know if this is what you were, but some people might be people pleasers. So how can they literally make the switch? Because that's a hard thing to sort of overcome, to become sort of a people pleaser.
I'm going to come back to the whole decision point.
Okay.
You have to decide. Like, it sounds so simple, but you have to decide, but not like a half-assed decision. Like, actually commit, declare it to the world, talk to people around you saying, this is what I'm doing now, help me stay accountable, like, and show up. Like, just, and if there are emotional triggers that show up, then deal with them. So, since September of last year, when I first received my little Spread Love card and where I am now, so we're in June now, so it's been, a few months. I've had a lot of emotional work that I've had to deal with. I've done lots of journaling. I mean, I've filled like probably 3 journals in that time. 3 journals, I've talked to girlfriends, I've done energy healing, but I've also showed up and kept going and kept moving. Being in action is really a great way, and a little like staying in where you feel safe, but a little bit outside of your comfort zone is also a good thing. So,
and how do you know what's a little bit out of your comfort zone?
No, I mean, that's pretty personal decision. I think it's about it's really like the image I like to think about is somebody who hasn't done yoga for a really long time, and they go and they get into a downward dog, and they're like, oh, that's a little bit stretchy, like I can still do it, but you're not hurting yourself, you're still safe. So it's a bit of that feeling. I think it's interesting to notice when you're feeling safe but stretched anywhere in your life, and then stay in that version of the feeling. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to have to go because my concussion brain's actually really hurting right now. So I need to end the video. Otherwise I'm going to be laying flat for 3 hours. So okay. I have to love my body the way that it is.
It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for your insights. Thanks for your honesty, your generosity. And I really hope that the people listening enjoyed it as much as I have. Thanks so much, Anne-Sophie.
Thank you so much for hosting me, and for everybody here, connect with me online. I have a Facebook group called She's a Change Maker, and the guides, the spreadlovemakesales.com/guide. And then there's the Calendly link if ever you want to apply for a time to speak with me.
Excellent.
You can go
Thank
there.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, and congratulations on this awesome event.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.